Alrighty, so hopefully audio is okay. It's going to be a quick video, this one, but I wanted to share with you my progress on the Spitfire and show you where we're up to with it. So, as you can see, it looks very glossy at the moment. Share with you why. So when we left the model, I was struggling with getting the decals to settle on it, and I still have been really struggling with it. It took 4 sessions basically to get all the decals onto the model, which is, I think, a new record for an Airfix kit. They did eventually all go on, but I had to try different setting solutions to try and find something that would work with them. They were certainly a lot harder to work with than I remember modern Airfix kits normally being. So the solution I came up with in the end was 2 or 3 coats of, to me, a Mark Fit Strong to actually get the decals to settle into the panel lines. And for the initial displacement of the decals, I used just microset. So I put microset down, put the decals on the model, let them sit for a bit, and then hit them up with that. And in the case of this stuff, I even went back the next day and put another coat on some of the decals, these larger ones like the roundels and these on the sides here, just to try and get them all to settle where I wanted them to be. But we did eventually get there. They're all on here. I didn't lose any in the transition. You can see it's very glossy at the moment. The gloss I used, in the end, I was going to use just an acrylic gloss, but because I had to put that original VMS gloss on and I was having trouble spraying, remember I tried to thin it and that didn't work very well. It ended up with quite a thick coat on it, and I didn't really want to put too many more thick coats on. So believe it or not, this coat is actually fairly thin. It's just highly glossy. And the varnish I've used here is like a base one, which is Mr. Colour GX. Thinned about 50%, sometimes around 50 to 60% with thinner. It's a lovely varnish, it really is. It's a very nice varnish. I don't normally use it just simply because it's quite smelly and toxic, so you know I haven't had the facilities really to use it all that much. I've now got a new spray booth and I've got a respirator and everything's set up now, so it's not such a big deal. But anyway, as you can see, the result is the model's very glossy, and I've put a coat of gloss over the entire model after I had put the decals on just to blend them in. And it's also had the bonus of blending in the weathering on the bottom of the wings in a way that I'm really happy with, actually. So obviously no Spitfire is going to look quite that polished and shiny. So the next step is to dull it all back down again. And that's what I'm just going to video tonight before we call it a night. So I'm going to have a go at using VMS again. This is their satin varnish. I don't know if I'd call it satin. It's more like a matte to me. This is an example of their satin varnish. Doesn't look very satin to me. But I'm going to use this one specifically because it doesn't have bad coverage. So it should fill in a couple of little spots underneath that I'm not 100% happy with. In fact, if I don't point them out to you, you probably won't even know they're there, but I do. So I think this varnish should fix that problem. At least I'm hoping it will. So that's what we're going to do now. I'm going to start up the spray booth, which I've just changed out the water on. And I'll switch cameras in a sec. So this stuff can be sprayed straight out of the bottle. It is recommended to spray with a 0.4 or greater. I've only got a 0.3 at the moment, but that'll get us out of trouble. And basically, yeah, we can thin this with acrylic thinners. I'm hoping we don't have to. So there we go. You can see the milky colour because it's got a matting agent in it. So I have shaken the bottle before we started. Let's switch over to the other camera. spray booth. Can you see us? Yep. And so now we've just got to adjust the air pressure. As we're spraying at a 0.3, we'll need a little bit higher air pressure. And then away we go. And unlike a matte varnish, I am putting a wet coat on, as you can see. My hope is, because this is a varnish that self-levels quite nicely, it will get rid of those couple of imperfections in the finish, or at least hide them so you're not going to see them. That's the theory. Just going to get myself a pair of tweezers. I need those in a few minutes. Okay, so there we go. Obviously has to dry, and hopefully it'll do the job. If this ends up being a little bit more satin because I put such a thick coat on, I'm not too concerned about that, because I've still got all paint to go on anyway, so and a bit of weathering, so that's fine. Okay. Now I'm going to do the top surfaces, so I think we might just leave that for a sec. Just get a bit more varnish. Okay, now onto the top wings. Airbrush is struggling a bit with this. Which is just great. It's a bit thick. That will push through. Okay. Alright, now we'll do the fuselage. so we're getting to a point where I can't really hold the top anymore, so I'm just going to put that in there. And try and finish off the model. That decal didn't quite survive. That did really poorly. Whoops. I didn't even notice that before. I wonder if that was the gloss varnish that did that. Not sure. Wow, that's a bit of a mess. Might have to touch that up with a bit of paint. We'll see. I'm not even sure if I'm going to bother fixing that. I should. I should. But actually the rest of it's not coming out too bad. Now if I put the wing up, I don't know if you can see it. If I point around this area, can you see that's already going like a satin or a matte finish? You can just see it's drying there. You can see it's still wet here. You can still see there's a bit of a reflection. But this part here is actually matting off right now. So we can see it underneath as well. And it is indeed doing what I'd hoped it would do. It's actually covering up the spot really nicely. So you can see that here, for example, is quite matte. This is still wet in some spots around here. It's starting to matte down. So that VMS is going to work fine and leave us with a nice finish on the model. Let's switch to the other camera, you might see it a bit more clearly. I don't know if this camera will pick it up better. Yeah, it does. So you can see it's drying out quite nicely around here. But you can see it's still a bit wet here. And still a bit wet around the wing root. Looking underneath. Again, it's a bit of a hodgepodge at the moment. Looking around here, you can see it's drying out. And there's other parts like here where it's still wet. So we'll leave that overnight to do its thing. There's no point rushing the model at this point. Unfortunately, that decal, this side's gone a bit skew. You can see it there. It's potentially able to be fixed with a bit of paint. This one's fine. Not sure whether I'm going to do that or not. We'll have to wait until the model has dried. One thing I will say about this VMS, just very briefly, can you see, because I applied the gloss over it, over the decals, and then applied the varnish, the satin varnish, can you see that those decals really sort of don't have any carrier film around them? That'll become even more apparent when we go in the next video and you see this after it's all had a day or two to dry. But that's one of the things the VMS varnish does really, really well. So that's something to think about. Alright, well that's about it for this video, and we'll let that dry and I'll catch up with you on the next one. Thanks for watching.